Good morning. Today we are continuing on with PO70. PO69 was the circumference of a circle. Today we are doing the area of a circle. So we're still working with that circle, which means we are still working with pi. So the area is the number of square units needed to cover a figure. So remember the area of the rectangle, looking at our backyard. If I need to put down grass all over the backyard, how much do I need to cover that whole area? Same thing with the circle. If I make a garden that is a circle shape, how much soil do I need to cover that whole area? The circumference, the perimeter, that's going around the outside. If I want to put a fence around the outside. Areas covering the whole inside. A circle, remember, is the set of all points that are the same distance so the radius, same distance from the center. The radius is the outside to center, and your diameter is the distance across the circle. Goes from side to side, going through the center. Remember that the diameter equals 2 times the radius. That radius goes from the outside to the middle. The diameter goes from the outside to the middle and back to the outside. So we can see there are 2 radiuses in 1 diameter. So if you're given the radius and you need the diameter, you multiply it by 2. If you are given the diameter and you need the radius, that's when you divide it by 2. So for the formula of a circle with the circumference, we could do either the radius or the diameter. It didn't matter which one they gave us, we knew which formula to use. I could either do 2 times pi times r, or I could do pi times diameter. So I knew which one to use. But with the area of the circle, our area equals pi times r squared. Because we're squaring the radius, we cannot use the diameter. We have to divide the diameter by 2 to find the radius. We have to have the radius for this formula to work. So when we're given our radius, we just put this number into our formula and we would say pi times phi squared. It's just the radius that we're squaring. So if you're putting it into your calculator, you're going to square the radius and then multiply it by pi. We don't want to square pi times the radius. We don't want pi in it when we square. So you square your radius, then you multiply it by pi. So this would be pi times 25, because that is what 5 squared is, 5 times 5. I'm not sure why we need different colored markers, because this is not what we're doing right now, Madison. Seriously, put the markers down. Have you written down with a pencil what I have on the board? So you're not focusing on the important part of the lesson. You're focusing on making your paper pretty. That's not where I need our focus to be right now. So what is pi times 25? We need our calculators. Zelda.
78.53.
78.5 what? Is it?
No, it's
Is it 0.53 or 0.54?
4.
Who can explain why?
Because you have to.
Oh, really?
Because if we have 25, I don't have my, can I borrow yours, friend? I don't have a pi button on that calculator. 25 times, if I do 25 times pi equals, I see 78.539. Remember, you have to look at that hundredth. We're rounding to the hundredth place, so we have to look at that thousandth place. There's a 9 there, so that 3 has to round up to the 4. Because we are rounding to the hundredths. I told us that when we were correcting. I talked about it last week. Ava.
So for the first one that you have, would it be pi times 5 squared? Or 5?
I said I would do 5 squared and then multiply that by pi. So if you're putting it into your calculator, I would do 5 squared times pi. So we want to make sure that we are just squaring the radius. And then we get that same answer. So if you know 5 squared is 25, you could just put 25 in there. I knew 5 squared is 25 because I love my perfect squares.
So it doesn't matter which way
3 times 2 is 6. 2 times 3 is 6.
Yeah.
So, yep, it's interchangeable. So if I don't have the pi button on my calculator, I could do that 5 squared, which is 25, times what number? If I don't have the pi button, what number do I put in, Zelda? 3.14. And that gets me 78.5. So if I do 5 squared times 3.14, that's when I get the 78.5. So I will have both the numbers written down. I will only accept one of those numbers. If you round incorrectly, it will be wrong. So if you're multiplying by 3.14, you would get 78.5 as your answer. If you do it with the pi button, you get 78.54. Ava.
How do you for one of them you only get 78.5, not 78?
Because when it's 3.14, we don't have all of those decimals.
Oh.
Because if we were to look at it, if I wrote it out longhand, I would do 25 times 3.14. 5 times 4 is 20. And that would be 7, that would be 15. And then I would have 0, 8, 2, 6. So I've got that 0 down there. So that's why I only go to the 10th place. Because of those zeros. That makes sense?
Yeah.
So when you round by 3.14, it doesn't ever go past the 100th place.
Okay.
Yes. Clear.
Oh, okay. I got it.
Okay. All right, let's look at our next one. Our next one, we have 12 centimeters. What would be my formula that I'm writing out? What's the equation? Because I saw on the circumference, some people were just writing an answer. Remember, we want to write the equation that we are putting into our calculator. What is the equation I'm going to put in, Melanie?
5 times 6 squared. Or 5 times 36.
So why 6 squared? Because I'm given a 12 up here.
Because I said like the full lines for the half.
Because what's given to me is that full diameter. You are absolutely correct. We don't want the diameter. So if you are given that full diameter, remember we have to break it into the radius. So the radius would be 6. So that's your first step. Make sure you have the radius. If you're given that full line, cut it in half. 12 centimeters would be 6 for the radius. So that's why Melanie used the 6. So what is pi times 6 squared? Claire?
113.0.
Say it again.
113.09.
113.09. Is it supposed to be a 9? Because that's not what I have written down. So what is, let me see your calculator. So this is something really good to think about. If we have 113.097, when that thousandth place is a 7, it means we have to round up. 5 or higher, we round up. So we're given a 9 in the 100th place. What's one more added to 9 is 10. So we stop at that 100th place. So the 10th place becomes the 1, and that 100th place becomes a 0. We've talked about it. It's sometimes we need refreshers. So that's why we do these kinds of things for our homework. So it's not going to be 0.9 because we had to round up. So 9 becomes 10, and that goes in the 10th place and the 100th place. If we were to multiply it by 3.14, instead of the pi button, if we had 3.14 times 6 squared, we would have gotten 113.04. How are we feeling about finding the area? Show me your thumbs. I'm missing quite a few thumbs. Yep. If you're comfortable, it's a straight thumb up. If you're not sure, it's a shaky thumb. Okay, so most of us are feeling pretty comfortable. The big thing to remember is when you come to your circle, what is our first step? What's step number 1? Madison. To find the radius. Make sure you have that radius. For C, we have our radius. Whew, we can just use that number. But for D, is this my radius? No, it goes all the way across. So what do I have to do, Ava?
You have to split it in half so it'll be 8.
I have to divide it in half. And of course, it's not letting me write. Oh my goodness. Whew, it is being goofy. So half of 16 is going to give me a radius of 8. Let me see if it'll let me. Half of 16 is 8 because 8 plus 8, not times, 8 plus 8 gives me that 16. So I want to use that 8. I want just the halfway point. Claire?
How do you know, when it's half and all the way? You do a different equation or not?
We don't have a diameter equation for the area. You have to use this formula. So you have to use the radius for the area.
So it's all the same.
So every single problem you have to find the radius.
Okay.
So when we're doing area, no matter what, you find the radius, plug it into the formula. Remember to write what your equation is that you're putting into your calculator. Any questions on today's math? For those of us that did not have our math done that we corrected today, you are working on that first. And then you're showing me. Okay, then work on the area. If you still have questions, make sure you come see me. Okay, if you are watching this at home, I hope you are well, and I hope to see you soon. Have a wonderful day.